and staying isolated. I'm sure very soon we will see the end of this tunnel. And I hope and pray that we have the patience and courage and luck to stay isolated and get out of this troubled situation. So let's all pray for that. So with that, let's continue. This session is an intended web series. So this is how we wanted to present this session. So there is no change here, but we were forced to change all the other session into this format. So this is such a wonderful chapter. The chapter 7 is always one of my most favorite chapter, because as I said, like when I started studying Bhagavad Gita, this is the first chapter that was introduced to me. So that was a big bang. So I always remember this chapter a lot. So we saw up to verse 4 last week, and we said that this particular chapter means it cut across the corner. It makes a different approach from chapter 1 to 6. If the focus of chapter 1 to 6 was the individual me, the real nature of me, chapter 7 to 12, the key focus shifted from me to the Lord of the universe, Ishvara. So we saw in the first verse itself, Krishna introduces the subject matter. What exactly is the subject matter of this chapter? And he said, like, you need to put some effort with 3 conditions. We saw that in detail. And in the second verse, Krishna said, I'm going to explain myself completely, and I'm going to explain the both direct knowledge and indirect knowledge. And also he said, among thousands of people, this knowledge, what I'm going to teach you and make you experience, is not an ordinary knowledge. Only a few people are lucky to get exposed to this, and only a few people who are exposed to this come to me in my entirety. And that's exactly what I'm going to promise you. So that's what the theme or the summary of verse 2 and 3. And on verse 4, we saw the teaching has started. So Krishna started defining the God. Who is this God of the universe? So he said, I have a lower nature and I have a higher nature. So first he started introducing that lower nature, because I am the nimitta and upadana karana of the universe. Nimitta means intelligent cause, and upadana karana means material cause. So the first verse, he expressed himself as the very material fabric of the universe. What exactly constitute the material universe? He said, it is me. And we saw that he said, on the physical level, there are 5 basic fundamental particles, which we talked as earth, water, air, fire, which represents the different states of matter, like the solid, liquid, gas, plasma, and a lack of everything else. The combination of all these 5 different states of matter is the entire physical universe. We saw that. And then he said, I myself manifest into subtle matters also. These subtle matters means it has a threefold qualification, means the dicing and slicing. He said, ahankara, mana, and buddhi. The combination of this is the entire material world. This much is what we saw in the previous class. Let me pause here. Anybody has any question? Okay.
I have Rajesh. So we talk about all the karma yoga in the first part, and the second part, the 7 to 12, is going to talk about Ishvara. But when I'm considering this also as like a world, right? Knowing me part is the first, and knowing world is the second part. But shouldn't that be a part of karma yoga too?
Definitely, because means the first part Karma Yoga is highlighted, but as a practice for whom?
For me, okay. The subject is just me. Yeah.
Subject is me. So who am I and what I need to do to experience the real me? So who am I is clearly explained. And then he said you have to do two types of practice to make sure that you know the true yourself. So Karma Yoga introduced from that perspective.
Got it.
So that's the idea.
Okay.
And even another yoga is a special kind of Karma Yoga will be introduced in the second topic, which is called Bhakti Yoga, because he's going to explain who am I, meaning Ishvara, and how an individual can, what is the relationship between an individual and Ishvara. It is defined as Bhakti, and that is explained. So all these yogas are going to come even now onwards, but the central teaching is from the perspective of Ishvara or the God. Whereas the first 6 chapter, the central theme was me and what I need to do. Means again, Bhakti Yoga is what I need to do, but presented from an angle how it is related to Ishvara. So that is how the difference is. And the third 6th portion, chapter is primarily focusing, having understood who am I and having understood who is Ishvara, how these two are related. So that is the third part. So a lot of yogas are going to come there. A couple of famous verses are there.
Okay, thanks.
Good question, Gina.
Rajji, I had a quick question.
Sure.
In our second chapter Gita class, we learnt about the subtle body.
Right.
How is the subtle body related to ahankara, mind, and intellect?
Okay. So the subtle body is essentially the combination of these three. So the subtle body means, per definition, it has 19 components. I explained that in the second chapter. This is a higher grouping, high level grouping. Like you can say that this constitute 19 components, or you can say that it, on a high level, that 19 components can be broken into these three categories. So the mind aspect, manaha here, is 5, it means organs of perception, not organs, the ability to perceive, ability to act, the pancha prana, all that is embedded here. That's it. It's the same thing. It is the same subtle body. That same subtle body is defined here as using a threefold classification. So the focus here is, again, not to talk about the constituents of the physical body and not even the constituents of the subtle body. Because if you really look at this definition was formulated with a worldview at that point of time. This is very important. See, Gita is not a science book. So what exactly is the prevalent science at that point of time that they used to define the world using this 5 elemental model? Gita is just reusing that. The idea Gita is saying that the entire material world, whether it is physical universe or subtle universe, whether it comes from physical matter or subtle matter, those physical matter and subtle matter came out of me. And that too, how? It is not a parinamavada. If you remember, like we talked about the different theories of this creation or srishti. And I started with the Abrahamic religions or some of our dualistic philosophies. What they are following is something called asatkaryavada. And in biblical terms, we called it as kriya, theo ex nihilo. It's a Latin word. And from there, when we came to Sankhya, we have something called parinamavada. So it's Satkaryavada, but within Satkaryavada, there is twofold division. One is called Parinamavada, means X turned into Y. There is definitely a material cause, there is an intelligent cause. But what is going to happen? The material was A at the time, before some time, and it turned into material B, and material A is completely, B is completely different from A. I said like pupa is transforming to a butterfly. Definitely, the butterfly came out of the pupa. But if you really look at pupa and butterfly is not pupa. It was, but it transformed. But the world is not like that. The Ishvara is not changed himself to become the world. Rather, the world exists on Ishvara. So that is what is called Vivartavada. Vivartavada. We are going to talk about this a little bit more in detail. Vivartavada means the cause is never away from the effect. So if you really think about the pot, the clay is not away from the clay at all. Sorry, yeah, the pot is never away from the clay. The wave is not away from the water at any point of time. The golden ornaments is not away from the gold. In fact, the gold gives existence to the gold ornaments. The clay gives existence to the pot. And the water gives existence to the wave. So if you remove that cause from the effect, nothing remains. So that is why it is apinna vivarta upadana karana. So that is what is the definition in Sanskrit. How the material world, where is God in the material world? The material world is nothing but the God. When you see a pot, you can see pot. Pot is nothing but a name and form exist on the cause, which is the clay. So you can choose to see the clay, or you can choose to see that as a pot. If you look at that as a pot, what happens? If that pot is cracked, that becomes an attribute of that object. The beginning of that pot becomes the birth of the pot. The end of that pot, or if that pot got destroyed, the end of the pot becomes the end of the life for the pot. If you look at it as clay, it was there before. If the pot got cracked, yes, the name and form got cracked, but the cause is never unaffected. So the God is there in the world. So the spiritual practices are going to make you appreciate and see the God in the world. This is a very complicated topic, but hope it is clear, right? We are going to bang. Krishna is going to repeat this topic again and again and again. So we will get it. Okay, so let's go to the 5th verse. Good questions. So let's listen to the chanting. So let me see. Let me stop and share with the computer sound. Share with computer sound. Okay.
अपरेयमितस्त्वन्यां प्रकृतिं विद्धि मे परां जीवभूतां महाबाहो ययेदं धार्यते जगत्.
So if the verse 4 was about apara prakriti, which is the lower nature, which represents the entire material world, this verse, which is the 5th verse, is naturally the higher nature, which is the para prakriti. So he tells apareyam idastanyam prakritim vithi me param jiva bhudam mahabaho yayenam tharyate jagadaha. Apareyam idastanyam. In addition to yam means what we talked earlier, that. So whatever we spoke earlier, whatever prakriti we talked earlier, which is the apara prakriti, which is the material fabric of the universe. Other than that, see, I'm the material cause of the universe, but I do have another nature. So prakritim vithi me param. Vithi means please understand. Prakritim means nature. Me means my. Param. I have a higher nature also. I have a higher nature also. Remember, God is introducing himself. We are getting introduced to the God. And who is introducing? The God himself is introducing. So somebody who knows the God introducing him. That is what we have to see. So the first verse, contemplate upon that. It is a huge, huge, huge topic. Like we don't have to run away to Kailas or Vaigunda to see the God. So apareya mitastvanyam, in addition to the lower nature, understand that there is a higher nature, which is called para prakriti. And what is that para prakriti? Jiva bhuta mahabaho yeyedam tharyate jagat. This higher nature is the cause that sustains the entire universe. Yeyedam tharyate jagat. That which sustains, that which supports, that which gives existence to the entire universe. And what is another characteristics of this particular cause? It is Jiva Bhudam Mahabaho, O mighty armed. He is calling Arjuna. Arjuna is mighty armed. Jiva Bhudam. This is the essence or the life or the consciousness in all the being. That is also me. So earlier words we were told that matter is me. Now it is said that even the higher nature, which is something other than matter, consciousness is not matter. So Max Planck said, right, we know that means matter could be considered. I regard matter as a derivative of the consciousness. So the consciousness is separate from matter. Again, this is not the neurology consciousness. Again, I tried to explain that even in the last class. So I have a higher nature. That higher nature is my real nature, and that is Param Prakriti. It is not Aparam Prakriti. It is my higher nature. And what is the nature? Jiva Bhutam. This is the essence. This is the life in every being comes from me. And also this higher nature is what sustains the entire universe. So that is the literal meaning. So let's try to see. So the eightfold material principle mentioned in the previous verse is called Apara Prakriti or lower nature. And out of this Prakriti only, all our bodies, like the physical body, the mind, senses, or the external world, every objects in the material world come from. And we saw that that is a material cause of the universe. If you remember, last week I said every creation, or every srishti, I hate to use the word creation, but every creation or srishti, it's just for convenience I'm using. It's not that something out of nothing. That is why, remember, we said it is not asatkaryavada. So every srishti presupposes two types of causes. One is called nimitta karana and the other one is called upadana karana, right? So the upadana karana, the material cause should be there, and a nimitta karana, which is the intelligent cause, should be there. Upadana karana, I said, right, a pot means, in the case of a pot, the clay is the material cause, whereas the pot maker, his intelligence needs to be there. That is the nimitta karana. So the apara prakriti is inert and insentient because it is matter. And this verse is talking about the higher nature of Ishvara, which is the para prakriti. And this higher nature is different from the lower nature, and it is known as para prakriti. And this is also known as Swarupa Prakriti. That is his real nature, Swarupa, and the other one is known as Swabhava. Swabhava means it is the characteristics. So one is Swarupa, the other one is Swabhava. This is another way of explaining it. So Swarupa Prakriti and Swarupa Lakshana. Swarupa Lakshana means the characteristics of the real nature. So this is what? The first portion. And the second portion is the nature of God, the higher nature. Para Prakriti is that by which the entire universe is sustained. So I put a diagram. So let me move this picture and show you. So what exactly the nature of this higher cause or the higher nature? It is Sat, existence. It is Chit, it is consciousness. And it is Ananda, which is contentment. And this Para Prakriti provides life to all being. Whereas one more point is this Apara Prakriti also comes from the Para Prakriti. So we can see that the consciousness or the absolute reality of the universe, which is known as Para Prakriti. So this Para Prakriti, from this Para Prakriti, what happens? The Apara Prakriti is evolved. All the material cause. The material cause comes from this fivefold states of matter and the subtle body, which is mind, intellect, and the ahankara. And all the non-living beings comes forth from this Para Prakriti. If I take a pen, if I take a book, if I take every inert and insentient object in this world directly comes from Para Prakriti. And can you guess why I put two arrows for the living being? Because the living being, a portion of the living beings comes from Apara Prakriti, and Another half, another portion of the living being comes from para prakriti. What is coming from apara prakriti and what is coming from para prakriti? Anybody can take a guess?
Yes, the gross body comes from apara prakriti and the subtle body comes from para prakriti.
No. Even the subtle body comes from apara prakriti. Remember, apara prakriti constitutes of both physical matter and subtle matter. So the mind, intellect, ego, which constitutes the subtle matter, also comes from apara prakriti. So there is something comes from apara prakriti. If you really look at the 3 dimensions of a jiva, right?
Atma.
3 dimensions of the jiva is, one is the physical body, second one is the subtle body or what we call as soul, and the third component is atma. The atma part comes from para prakriti, and that is why he said jiva bhutam mahabaho yayenam dhyariti jagat. The jiva, the life force or that consciousness or the atma is me. So this diagram is extremely important. So both the body and mind, Ishvara is the cause. The body comes from apara prakriti, whereas the life or the consciousness or the atma comes from para prakriti. This is such an important topic. A lot of people make mistake, and let me quiz you, right? Soul. What exactly, from where the soul comes from? Apara prakriti or para prakriti?
Apara.
Exactly.
Para prakriti, right? So
Apara prakriti, because soul is what? Soul is subtle body. Soul means subtle body, means it is mind, intellect, and ahankara. So mind, intellect, and ahankara is not physical matter. It is subtle matter. And the subtle matter comes from apara prakriti. And always keep that example I told you, which is the example of the computer hardware, computer software, and electricity. So to demonstrate this point, one example that strikes me very much is the hard disk example. Imagine that you have a 100 TB hard disk or 2 TB hard disk, which is, let's say that it weighs 2.2 pounds. Of course, the hard disk won't weigh that much. I just put 2.2 because it weighs exactly as that of a brain. And before putting any data, try to weigh that hard disk. It is 2.2 pound, and put 2 TB of data, which is thousands or hundreds of thousands of hours of video. So you stored a lot of data there. Try to weigh again. The weight will be 2.2 pound. So the reason is, even when the data got added, materially nothing got added. So that is why it is called a subtle matter. So that is why I see that, means Shankara's time this example was not there, otherwise he would have used it. So please keep in mind, this is something very new Krishna is introducing. So far we never talked about this particular diagram. The higher nature of Ishvara, which is the absolute reality, is known as para prakriti. From that para prakriti, apara prakriti comes in. From apara prakriti, all the non-living beings evolve, like a rock or a mountain. Everything comes from apara prakriti. And the human being or any living being has component from both apara prakriti and para prakriti. Apara prakriti is the physical and subtle body, and para prakriti is the jiva. So this verse is very important from that perspective.
Rajaji, non-living beings don't have any subtle body, right?
No, but the physical body is there.
Physical body is there. Yet non-living beings only come from apara prakriti.
Prakriti, correct. Because the non-living beings, the only constituents is the physical matter.
The physical matter.
Correct.
But don't we say non-living being also has prana in it? No?
Atma is there, but there is nothing to reflect that Atma.
Atma on. Okay,
Right.
got it.
So
Yeah.
that's why it's inert and insentient.
Got it. Yeah.
This is beautiful, right? Even when you're in coma, right? Even though you have life, but the consciousness is never reflected. When somebody dies, what is going to happen? The physical body is there. The subtle body will go, but it cannot reflect Atma. The Atma is like an all-pervading light. It's like a mobile tower. Whenever that mobile is capable of catching that, tuned to that, Atma will reflect. That's what it is. So when somebody dies, nothing happens to Atma. The physical body is over. Subtle body moves from that body to the other body. This is the theory of karma. So this is also we need to keep in mind. But right now, that is not the focus. Krishna is introducing yourself. He tells, okay, I am the matter, I am the consciousness. Both is me. So let's try to see a little bit more. So this is the sustainer of the entire universe. He said the word he used is yayet karyate jagat, that which contains, sustains the entire universe. So Ishvara is the sustainer of the entire universe, provides existence, consciousness to all being. And one of its characteristics, means the Upanishad tells, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam. It is the absolute reality. The definition is that which is not subjected to change in the three periods of time. Trikala abadidam satyam. That is the definition. Jnanam means it is every knowledge in the world is there. And the third one is Anantam, infinite. And again, I said this is much more precise than even the definition of Contour, who defined multiple type of infinity in mathematics. You can refer Contour's experiment. Like he did a lot of work and came up with all these infinity. But here the infinity is clearly defined as Satyam, Jnanam, Anant, Desha, Kala, Vastu, Parichedaha. So that which is beyond, means not limited or constrained by Desha, meaning that place. Kala means timing, and Vastu means objectivity. So you may wonder what is the constraint by being an object. If I say that this is a pen, that implies something. What is that? It is not a phone. Right? That is the Vastu Paricheda. The moments you say that something has an attribute, however great is that attribute, if you say that something is A, immediately you can say that that is not a complement. So that is the limitation of being a Vastu. Space limitation is simple, everybody knows that. Time limitation is simple, everybody knows that. Space limitation means you are sitting here in your home, so you are not there in New York now. So Kala Parichedaha means you are sitting here in 2020, 1920, none of us was there. And 2120, none of us will be there. So we are limited by Kala. So this truth, we are talking, Krishna's higher nature is neither limited by space, nor limited by time, or by objectivity. So Para Prakriti, it is the sustainer of the entire universe. It is the cause of even the Apara Prakriti, and it supports the life by providing the consciousness. So these are some of the three, again, it is not characteristics, but just for the words becomes inadequate here. That is one challenge we are quickly getting into. That Apara Prakriti means it is the material cause of the universe. It consists of physical and subtle matter, and it is born out of Para Prakriti. Clear? At least intellectually, this is clear, right? Okay. So that's the verse 5. So let's see the verse 6. Okay, we'll see the verse 6 also.
एतद्योनीनि भूतानि सर्वाणीत्युपधारय अहं कृत्स्नस्य जगतः प्रभवः प्रलयस्तथा.
Continues to introduce himself to us. Himself, please don't think him as the boy with a flute in Vrindavan. He's talking as the Lord of the universe. So any Lord, it could be Allah, it could be Father in heaven. He's introducing that. He tells Etat Yonini Bhutani. So Yoni means womb. That is the Sanskrit word, or the cause or the source of Etat Yonini Bhutani. Bhuta means being, living beings, or all the beings. Bhuta means not living being, all the beings. So I am the source of entire creatures in the universe. Whether they are inert, insentient, whether they are conscious, it doesn't matter. I am the cause of the entire universe. That's the message. Etat yonini bhutani sarvani tyupadharayat. So understand thus. Sarvani upadharaya. Just understand that. Or sarva means everything. Sarvani means I am the cause of sarvani bhutani. That's what it is. And then Krishna tells, I am aham Krishnasya jagadha. Krishnasya means entire. Jagataha means world. I am for the entire world, I am what? Prabhava and Pralaya. Meaning the entire world, Prabhava means what? From me, the entire world came into me. And Pralaya means what? To me, the whole world will come back. Imagine the clay saying, the pot came from me. The pot exists in me. And finally, the pot comes back to me. You can break the pot, but you cannot destroy the clay. The wave will be destroyed eventually, but nothing will happen to water. That's the message. Contemplate upon this. This is wonderful messages to know Ishvara. So, everything in the universe, I am the cause. I am everything in the universe. Means these twofold Prakriti is the cause of the entire universe. So that includes all the living beings, all the non-living beings. Everything in the universe, known and unknown, is coming from these two nature of mind. So it could be like Shankaracharya tells, from Brahma to a Stamba. From a post to Brahmaji, the supreme Brahmaji, creator of the universe. Everything has come from this two causes. So then he tells, it means all the forces of the law, forces and the laws of the universe. The weak force, the strong force, the gravitational force, the electromagnetic force, everything comes from this thing. Every phenomena in the universe is from these two causes. If you believe in Purana, all the lokas, like the Devaloka, the Patala Loka, all the 14 lokas they talk, it is coming from here. All the exalted beings, like if there is a Devas, if there are Devas and Devendras and Yakshas, Kinnaras, other world and other beings, if they are there, that also comes from me. Nothing in the universe that is outside of me. This is the Ishvara we are talking here. So, cause of everything. He said, Aham Krishnasya Jagataha Prabhavaha. I am the cause of the Srishti. Prabhavaha means, Bhava means happens. Praharshena Bhava means first time it comes out. It means the loose language is creation, but creation always implies creation out of nothing. That's why we avoid that word. Projection. Projection means something was projected in. I am the maker and the material cause of the universe. The universe comes out of Ishvara. The universe exists in Ishvara. I can say that the pot came from clay. The pot exists in clay. And finally the pot merged back to clay. Pralayas tada. It means I am the source into which everything finally goes back. So Ishvara is the nimitta abhinna nimitta upadana karana of the universe. Abhinna means non-separate. So when Ishvara became the world, Ishvara didn't lose its characteristics. Just like that pupa becomes the butterfly, at that point of time, the characteristics it lost. But when Ishvara became the world, Ishvara still is there. This is what the next verse is. So that, let's see the summary of the two verses we saw. We saw the definition of the God had started, which is the central theme of this chapter. So we saw that nimitta karana of this universe, because the verse 4 we saw that I am the upadana karana. So the here intelligent cause of the universe. Everything in the universe has its being in Ishvara. The pot has its being in clay. The golden ring has its being in gold. Like that, every object in this universe has its being as Ishvara. And this is Ishvara is means Vivarta, Vivarta, Nimitta, and Upadana Karana. Vivarta means non-separate, means projected. It's not the Parinama Karana. It is the Vivarta Karana. Vivarta means I'm not moving away. Aphinna, that is another word we can use. Aphinna, Nimitta, Upadana Karana of the universe is Ishvara. So that's the two verses we wanted to cover today. So we have 7-8 minutes. So we can have any questions.
So Rajaji, you mentioned the gravitational force and electromagnetic force in the universe. Do these come from these also come from Apara Prakriti, right?
Absolutely, because the forces are materialistic. Energy is what? Condensation of matter. What was Einstein's famous equation?
E equal to mc square.
Means what? Matter and energy are
Transferable.
interchangeable.
Yeah.
So all the energy. So this I just specially call that out because some people think that energy is Ishvara, matter is world. Just to avoid that, Ishvara is beyond that.
So would it be right to think that Para Prakriti equal to Apara Prakriti plus Atma?
Yeah, because Para Prakriti means contains Apara Prakriti plus Atma plus something more which we don't know. Para Prakriti means me in means Swarupa Prakriti. So definitely Para Prakriti means based on our current knowledge, it has Para Prakriti is Apara Prakriti, which is the material world plus consciousness. Agreed. So we are continuing this discussion. This is beautiful. Krishna is going to elaborate on this topic further in the upcoming verses. But please contemplate upon that. This is a good topic for the expansion meditation. This can help you a lot understanding the nature of Ishvara.
Basically, he's saying everything evolves out of me and dissolves back to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So Rajesh, this that's all we are going to do with 6 verse 6.
Yeah.
We are moving to 7 because
7. Yeah.
I'm also seeing that the lakshanas have been explained in this. Are you going?
Yeah.
to
So Lakshana is not means it's an added explanation. So in our Nyaya system, they typically call it as something called Lakshana. It's a good question. So typically we call it as Swarupa Lakshana and Tadastha Lakshana.
Correct.
So Swarupa Lakshana means what exactly is the real nature of an object. I'm going to explain this phone, saying that this phone has a screen, it has XYZ, etc. So means we explained Ishvara using the Para Prakriti, right? So that is the real nature of the Ishvara. So that is the Swarupa Prakriti. And then this Para Prakriti is very hard for people to understand. So we can always even try to explain the Ishvara using Apara Prakriti. So that is called Tadastha Lakshana. So we can say that the stock example in the textbook, Vedantic textbook is, I'm pointing, say that I stay in that house on where that black crow is sitting. So I'm using a black crow to show where I'm staying. So this approach in our Nyaya system, which is our Indian logical system, is known as Tadastha Lakshana. So here I'm saying that, okay, look at this Apara Prakriti. So when you see a beautiful mountain, when you see one lovely star, when you see a beautiful flower, or whenever you see the smile of a child, see, you can see the God there. So that you're pointing, using that to point something other than that. So that is why it is Tatastha Lakshana. So we can use, means if you want, means that Nyaya system, we can use these two Lakshana to indicate both Para Prakriti and Apara Prakriti. Good question, Bonaj. That's great.
And in chapter 2, You said, you mentioned that in chapter 2 he showed the Vishwarupam, right?
No, chapter 12. 12, I believe.
Chapter
No,
12.
not 12, not 12. I believe 10. 10th chapter.
10th. I remember you saying in the second chapter itself he shows Vishwarupam. I don't know.
Oh, he don't show the Vishwarupam.
Yeah,
He mentioned
because
about it.
it makes sense now, after knowing all this, if he shows the Vishwarupam, it makes sense because he can understand it better.
Yeah.
All the Brahmandam, all the Devatas, and all the Lokas, everything is, in place.
Yeah.
So that's what I thought. I mistook it for
Yeah.
that. And then the Satchidanandam, here it is one more thing I wanted to put. This Para Prakriti, he says it's Satyam, Jnanam, and Anantam Brahma, which is correct. Okay, it is Jiva Bhutam. I have a question on the Jiva Bhuta. It is in the form of Jiva, Atma, and Pratyagatma. What is that?
Okay, so Jiva, Atma, and
Those two I understood. What is Pratyagatma?
Pratyekatma means it is the supreme self. So the difference between,
Okay.
yeah, that's it. That's what I was talking earlier also, the Om.
Okay.
What we
Atma and Atma, subtle body, and the
So the Jiva means it is the combination of all these three. Atma there means it is the Jivatma, which is the Paramatma reflected in the subtle body. And Pratyekatma means it is the supreme self. So different terminologies.
Okay. In the same chapter, he is also saying, it is I, it is you are the same.
Correct.
In this itself, he is explaining, right?
Yeah, he's telling because the life in you is me, the material in you is me. So essentially, you are me. But that will be more clarified. Yes, it is there even in the second chapter. It is here, but that will be more explicitly pointed out later, very clearly. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But these are wonderful questions. Thank you. These are real Vedantic questions.
Okay, we have to study more.
Yeah, this is fantastic. This chapter I love. This chapter.
So basically, he says all the creation, sustenance, and dissolution is all me.
Me.
That's
But one point we need to make sure is that typically when people think that God created the universe, they think that the world is different from God. So they say it is the Parinama Vada. We are not talking about the Parinama Vada here. We are saying that it is Vivarta Vada. Vivarta Vada means which is Abhinna, Nimitta, Upadana, Karana. Non-separable, intelligent, material cause of the universe.
Non-separable.
Yeah, non-separable. Because the pot has never changed to become the clay. Whereas the clay is attributed to the pot. That's it. It's only the name and form. So this is an important point we need to understand as serious Vedantic students.
One more time, the Parinami Upadana Karana, you explained that is the Maya?
No, Parinama Upadana Karana. So the Maya here is what? The Maya here is the Lord is only one. The one Lord becomes the Upadana Karana of the universe, which is the 5 elements plus three subtle elements. And these 5 plus 3 elements in different permutations and combinations manifest itself as billions and trillions of different objects around me. Okay. And I feel completely separated from that cause. And this is the effect of Maya. So because of Maya, I see the one without second as many in the universe completely. So that is the means Maya can be explained from multiple sources. So one of the sources is this. So before concluding, in 2 minutes we'll conclude. So this is time. All of you are sitting home. So if means everybody is interested, why don't we all take some reading challenge? Like why don't you read one chapter or some book this time? That can be, because when there is uncertainty, I always feel that there is a flip side of the uncertainty. What is the flip side of the uncertainty? Infinite possibilities. So right now it's a big uncertain time. So it can be used as infinite possibilities. Like take up one book, read it, it is going to benefit you a lot. Study one
Can you
chapter.
recommend us something that we should read, which
Recommend us
will
books.
complement what we're doing?
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः